Hello, I'm Raymond Goh, and Nightline begins now. The top stories. Malaysian travellers allowed to use border pass to go to Thailand from Thursday. And government to offer 2-year extension for 2,600 contract teachers. Good morning. Travellers from Malaysia and Thailand can now use their border pass to enter the two countries starting Thursday. Perlis Border Relations and Cooperation Committee Chairman Ruzaini Rais said the relaxation was given after Malaysia and Thailand reached an agreement to spur the economic recovery of both nations. Raizani said travellers or tourists who wanted to use the border pass needed to apply through the Thailand Pass web portal 24 hours prior to their departure. However, only residents in Perlis, Kedah, North Perak and Kelantan are allowed to use this border pass. Travellers or tourists from Thailand who use the border pass are also allowed to travel back and forth into Malaysia, provided they had been fully vaccinated.
Cuma dia perlu daftar dengan aplikasi Thailand, aplikasi daripada Thailand punya aplikasi. Kemudian lepas itu pihak Thailand akan beri masukan selama 3 hari lah, selama 3 hari kepada rakyat Malaysia yang menggunakan border pass. Tapi kalau menggunakan international passport, syarat-syaratnya seperti pembukaan di Wakilian hari itu.
Ruzaini said this after visiting the Immigration, Customs, Quarantine and Security Complex (ICQS) in Padang Besar on Thursday. Commenting further, he added travellers or tourists from Thailand who use their passports to enter Malaysia are also required to have travel insurance and undergo a health screening upon arrival. They are also allowed to stay longer than those using the border pass. He also said the number of travellers to both countries was expected to increase within a week following the relaxation given to visitors. The Padang Besar ICQS is the latest Malaysia-Thai border checkpoint to be reopened after Wang Kelian, also in Perlis, and Bukit Kayu Hitam in Kedah. Meanwhile, 3 ICQS complexes at the Malaysia-Thailand border in Kelantan were fully reopened on Thursday for commercial and social visit purposes. State Immigration Department Director Azhar Abdul Hamid said that the 3 ICQS are in Rantau Panjang, Bukit Bunga and Pengkalan Kubur. He also reminded travellers or tourists wishing to enter Malaysia to comply with the standard operating procedures set by health authorities, including requiring visitors from Thailand to be fully vaccinated and have complete travel documents. The fate of 2,600 contract of service (COS) teachers appointed in June 2020 intake, whose tenures were slated to end by July this year, will be resolved as their contracts are expected to be extended for 2 years. Senior Education Minister Dato Dr. Radzi Jidin said the details of the good news would be announced later after his ministry and the Education Service Commission (SPP) complete their discussion on the matter. Dato Dr. Radzi said many issues related to COS teachers have been raised and conveyed to his ministry. Hence, his ministry is in the process of taking appropriate action to address the problem based on existing rules and procedures. Elaborating further, Dato Dr. Radzi added the MOE is constantly in talks on the best approaches for teachers on contract service basis. He stressed that the claim that the teachers will not get their May salary is not true, and his ministry will ensure that the welfare of teachers is protected. On Wednesday, the senior minister, in a post on his Facebook account, instructed for the issue to be given attention and resolved immediately by his ministry. Meanwhile, National Union of the Teaching Professions NUTP President Aminuddin Awang welcomed the announcement by Dato Dr. Radzi and grateful for his concern in resolving the issue of contract teachers so that the shortage of teachers in the country can be minimized. At the same time, he said the NUTP also expects the contract teachers to be accorded opportunities to be absorbed as permanent teachers by the SPP, as they consist of those qualified to be appointed to the DG 41 grade. The first Hajj flight this year is scheduled for May 31st. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Religious Affairs, Dato' Idris Ahmad, said offer letters have been sent to pilgrims and preparations for the departure are going smoothly.
Sudah keluar 24 April. Sudah keluar dan kita sedang menunggu untuk mereka reply. Untuk yang confirm nak pergi, mereka akan buat persiapan di mana menyediakan pasport untuk pastikan vaksin mereka lengkap, semua kesihatan mereka baik. Dan insya-Allah program berjalan dengan baik. Dijangka penerbangan awal ialah pada 31 Mei. Jadi jangka penerbangan awal.
He was speaking at his Aidilfitri open house in Kampung Sungai Petai, Changkat Jering, Perak on Thursday. On the Hajj quota appeal, Dato' Idris said he would hand over a letter of appeal from Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob to Saudi Arabia's ruler, King Salman Abdulaziz, soon. It is reported that the quota for Malaysian pilgrims is set at 14,306 individuals this year. Up to 22,463 hand, foot and mouth disease HFMD cases were reported nationwide until the 17th epidemiological week between April 24th and 30th, from which 96% were children aged below 6. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah on Thursday said the figure marked a sharp spike of 12.8 times more compared to the same period last year, which saw only 1,752 cases. In a statement, Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham said of the total, HFMD had infected 96%, or 21,508 children aged below 6, while 729 others, or 3%, were aged from 7 to 12. The remaining 1%, or 193 cases, involved adults aged 18 to 55. The virus, he added, spreads through saliva contact, blisters or feces of HFMD patients whose infection is usually mild, with symptoms of fever, followed by blistering rash on the hand, feet, mouth and tongue. To date, 767 outbreaks had been reported in Malaysia. He also said a majority of the outbreaks occurred in kindergartens, nurseries and preschools with 600 cases, followed by private homes with 186 cases and 26 cases at child care centres. Meanwhile, Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham revealed that the dengue threat in the country was also on the rise, with a total of 1,021 cases and 1 death reported in the 17th epidemiological week, an increase of 5.6% compared to the week before, with 987 cases and also 1 fatality. Since the 2022 Hari Raya Puasa festive season maximum price scheme was implemented from April 26 to May 4th, a total of 6,702 business premises have been inspected. Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Ministry's Enforcement Director Azman Adam said of the number, 10 were found to have violated the Price Control and Anti-Profiteering Act. In a statement on Thursday, Azman said the ministry will continue to enforce the maximum price scheme nationwide until May 10th instead of May 6th, in conjunction with the Aidilfitri celebrations, to enable Malaysians to continue the tradition of visiting and holding open houses in a harmonious and cheerful atmosphere after 2 years of restrictions due to the COVID-19 pandemic. He added that the price of chicken and eggs will also remain under the maximum price scheme until June 5th. Azman also warned that stern action would be taken against anyone who failed to comply with the rules and regulations under the scheme. Among the offences detected involved failure to comply with price tag requirements and selling controlled items above the maximum price. In Kuala Lumpur, 2 local men wanted by police to assist investigations into a shooting incident at a hotel in Bukit Bintang on Tuesday have been arrested. City Police Chief Dato' Azmi Abu Qasim said the 2 suspects aged 47 and 51 were arrested in a raid at a residence in Puchong at about 8:15 p.m. on Wednesday. According to Dato' Azmi, in the raid, police seized a .38 revolver, a Beretta semi-automatic revolver, 14 bullets, a red Honda RS 150 motorcycle, 2 helmets, 2 sets of shirts and pants, 2 pairs of sports shoes, a sling bag, as well as 3 mobile phones of various brands.
Salah satu daripada peluru ni yang merupakan kosong ini, yang ini yang telah diguna untuk menembak mangsa.
He said this in a media conference at the Kuala Lumpur Contingent Police Headquarters on Thursday. Dato' Azmi added, based on initial investigations, it was found that all the suspects, including the first suspect, who was nabbed at the scene on the same day of the incident, and the victim, a 49-year-old local man who had 14 previous criminal records connected to kidnapping, murder and drugs, had met at a hotel room to conduct drug-dealing business. The first suspect, who had 7 previous drug-related criminal records, had been remanded for 6 days starting Wednesday until Monday. Authorities will also apply for a remand order on the 2 other suspects. All of them were detained following the discovery of the victim's body with gunshot wounds to his forehead by a hotel employee inside the hotel room about an hour after he had checked in. The case is being investigated under the Penal Code for murder. Malaysians John So Chi Wen and Kwa Su Ling were convicted by the Singapore High Court on Thursday for masterminding the city-state's infamous penny stock crash that caused a loss of some 8 billion Singapore dollars in market value nearly a decade ago. Prosecutors called it the most serious case of market manipulation in Singapore's history that involved complex and elaborate fraud using over 180 trading accounts to inflate the share prices of 3 companies, namely Bluemont Group, Asia Suns Capital and Lion Gold Corp. So and Kwa used the shares as collateral, convincing several banks, including Goldman Sachs, to extend more than 170 million Singapore dollars in credit to finance their scheme. They then used the cash to create demand for penny stocks, reportedly managing to push up some prices by around 800% in 2013. But on October 4th, prices crashed, wiping an estimated 8 billion Singapore dollars from the Singapore Exchange. High Court Judge Hu Xiaoping convicted So of 180 out of 188 charges and Kwa of 169 of 177 charges. Singapore Police Force and the Monetary Authority of Singapore, in a joint statement, said both will be sentenced at a later date and face multiple years in prison and hefty fines. So has been under remand since the duo was first charged in 2016, while Kwa is out on bail. More local updates later in the bulletin, but first, after this short break, Zionist cruelty continues. Stay tuned to Nightline. have again stormed the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound on Thursday after a 10-day cooling of tensions at the holy site. It was reported that Israeli police assaulted and tried to detain Palestinian worshippers at the mosque complex in Baitul Maqdis. A large force of Israeli police also fired rubber bullets at the worshippers and chased them to the roof of the Qibli Mosque. The Palestinian Red Crescent said 2 people had been injured in the clashes. The latest violence came following a tense April, in which nearly 300 people were injured in clashes between police and Palestinians at Al-Aqsa, while violence also flared in the occupied West Bank, following a wave of attacks in Israel and raids by the Israeli military. Palestinians have been angered by an uptick in Jewish visits to the compound, where long-standing convention Jews may visit but are not allowed to pray. The Palestinian Foreign Ministry labeled the Israeli actions as a declaration of religious war, while Jordan condemned Israel for allowing Jewish extremists to break into the compound. Ukraine on Thursday said Russia was trying to destroy its remaining soldiers holed up in Mariupol's Azovstal steel plant, with Kiev's last defenders in the battered city, saying Moscow forces have broken into the giant factory. In a statement, Ukrainian officials claimed that Russian occupiers are focusing on blocking and trying to destroy Ukrainian units in the Azovstal area in order to take control of the plant. The statement came as a Russian-announced ceasefire was due to begin at the besieged plant, where hundreds of Ukrainian soldiers and some civilians have been trapped for weeks. A commander of the Azov battalion leading the defense of Mariupol said Moscow has burst into the enclosure of the steel works for 2 days, but Ukraine continued to execute the order to hold the defense. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky asked United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres to help save his units in Azovstal, calling for the removal of all the wounded. He said that there were still civilians, women and children trapped at Azovstal and that Kiev was negotiating to rescue them. In Iraq, more than 1,000 people were rushed to hospital with respiratory ailments on Thursday due to a sandstorm, the 7th to hit the country in the past month. According to health official Anas Kais, hospitals in Al-Anbar province had received more than 700 patients with breathing difficulties. The central province of Salaheddin reported more than 300 cases, while the central province of Diwania and the province of Najaf south of Baghdad each recorded about 100 cases. Also affected were residents in 6 of Iraq's 18 provinces, including the vast western region of Al-Anbar. A government official in early April warned Iraq could face 272 days of dust a year in coming decades. Ride-hailing and delivery group Uber has made a $5.9 billion loss, mostly due to its stakes in other companies. The firm said almost all of the losses was a result of the fall in the value of investments in businesses including 2 Asian ride-hailing giants, China's Didi and Southeast Asia's Grab. Chief Executive Dara Khosrow-Shashi said their results demonstrate how much progress they made navigating out of the pandemic. It added the number of trips taken, which had risen 18% for the 3 months to the end of March compared to the same period last year, has helped its revenue to rise by 136%. Its chief financial officer, Nelson Chai, however, stressed that Uber has enough cash to hold on to those loss-making stakes and wait for a better time to sell them. Its shares ended Wednesday's trading session in New York 4.66% lower. Coming up next, Al Ain clinch second Pro League Cup title. Stay tuned. Al Ain claimed the title for the second time on Wednesday after beating Shabab Al Ahli 5-4 in a dramatic penalty shootout at the Mohammed bin Zayed Stadium in Abu Dhabi. Federico Cartabia scored the only goal of the opening half in the 27th minute to give Shabab Al Ahli the lead. However, Al Ain turned the game around in the second half, and strikes from Kojo Fo Dolaba and Caio Canedo put Sergei Rebrov's side 2-1 up with 15 minutes left. Cartabia got his second of the game with a curling free kick on 80 minutes to make it 2-2. The sides could not be separated after that, and the game went to a penalty shootout. After both sides had missed one from the spot, Khalid Al-Balushi made it 5-4 to Al Ain. Abdulaziz Haikal had to score for Shabab Al Ahli, but saw his effort deflected onto the crossbar by goalkeeper Khalid Aisa, and Al Ain took the victory. The UEFA Champions League now. Pep Guardiola was left to bemoan a late missed chance from Jack Grealish after Manchester City were knocked out of the semi-finals following another stunning comeback from Real Madrid. The Spaniard also admitted he knew Real Madrid were capable of coming back from 2 goals down, leaving City with another frustrating European campaign.
Yeah, we were close. So before the first goal, we had 2 chances, especially one so clear with Jack, like made the solve it. And in that moment, we didn't have the feeling that we were in trouble for the way they attack. It didn't happen. So they score a goal at the end, and yeah, they have done it many times in his history, and they put a lot of players in the box with Militao, with everyone, 4 strikers plus Militao, and put there. And they found the goals.
Riyad Mahrez opened the scoring on the second leg to put City ahead 5-3 on aggregate, but substitute Rodrigo pulled a goal back in the 90th minute and scored again a minute later to send the game into extra time. Karim Benzema then sealed the victory from the penalty spot, just as he had in the quarter-final against Chelsea, with Real winning 6-5 on aggregate. Carlo Ancelotti's side will meet Liverpool in the final in Paris, where Los Blancos will go in search of a record 14th title in European club football's premier competition. Over 110 fatalities recorded in 6 days of Op Selamat. More from the local front when Nightline returns. were recorded from road accidents in the country during the 6 days of Op Selamat 18, which began last Friday in conjunction with Aidilfitri. Deputy Inspector General of Police, Dato' Razaruddin Hussein, said during the same period, 9,816 accidents were reported nationwide. Dato' Razaruddin said that during the 6 days of the operation, motorcyclists and pillion riders recorded the highest number of fatalities at 72, followed by 30 car drivers and passengers, and 1 death involving a van driver. He also said on Wednesday, the 6th day of Op Selamat 18, a total of 1,455 accidents were recorded involving 24 fatalities. Selangor recorded the highest number of accidents with 2,160 cases, followed by Johor with 1,372, Perak with 982, Kuala Lumpur with 875, Pulau Pinang with 803, Kedah with 659, Pahang with 561, and Negeri Sembilan with 507 cases reported. Meanwhile, a total of 26,837 summonses for 6 major offences were issued against road users on the 6th day of Op Selamat 18. Dato' Razaruddin pointed out that cutting queues was among the most common offences committed by road users, with 458 summonses issued, as well as the offence of using the emergency lanes and disobeying traffic lights, with 417 and 413 summonses issued, respectively. Former Federal Court Judge Datuk Sri Gopal Sri Ram will lead the defence team in Sam Kerting's appeal against a conviction and jail sentence for reckless driving which caused the death of 8 teenagers who were riding on modified bicycles commonly known as basikal lajak. The appointment of the clerk's legal team was finalised on Thursday. Lawyer Havinderjit Singh, who confirmed the matter, said he will appear with Dato' Sri Ram to represent Sam. This after Sam met Dato' Sri Ram at his office and he had agreed to conduct the appeal for her. He added that Sam's lawyer, Faisal Mukhtar, would also be part of the legal team. They would also inform the Court of Appeal Deputy Registrar on their appointments and seek for the appeal records to be provided to prepare the case as well as to prepare the petition of appeal. Case management on Sam's appeal has been set on May 11th before Deputy Registrar Muhammad Khairi Harun. On April 18th, the Court of Appeal granted leave to Sam to appeal against her 6-year jail sentence and 6,000 ringgit fine imposed by the Johor Bahru High Court. The Court of Appeal had also allowed Sam's application to stay the execution of the jail sentence and the fine imposed by the High Court last April 13th and released her on a 10,000 ringgit bail with one surety pending the hearing of her appeal. High Court Judge Dato' Abu Bakar Qatar meted out the jail sentence and fine on Sam after allowing the prosecution's appeal to set aside the Johor Bahru Magistrates Court decision on October 10th last year, which acquitted and discharged the woman. He also ordered a woman to be jailed for 6 months if she failed to pay the fine and a 3-year driving ban upon completion of a prison term. Sam, who was 22 years old at the time of the incident, was charged with committing the offence at Jalan Lingkaran Dalam, Johor Bahru at 3:20 a.m. on February 18, 2017. That's it for Nightline this time around. As we wrap up, let's take a look at a SpaceX Dragon capsule with 4 astronauts on board, which has left International Space Station and is returning to Earth. NASA astronauts Rajachari, Tom Marshburn and Caleb Barron, along with European Space Agency astronaut Matthias Maurer, have been in orbit for 6 months. The capsule will splash down about 23.5 hours after the initial undocking. With that, I'm Raymond Goh. Thank you for your company and stay safe.